Hello and welcome all to a bit of a mid AFL future with Aidan. So this is the first one for the season and we got a bit packed. But welcome aboard Mick. So before we work to our intro episodes today, let's welcome Aidan. Welcome.
It is an absolute pleasure to be back here on the BJ show. It's been a long time since I've been on the show, so we've got a lot to get through today. So we've got the AFL, so having a look at the teams, who everyone lines up as through round 3.
Absolutely, and we'll start the Australian Football League, SANFL local well, and then into the start of Aussie football. There's been some massive news for South Australia, Adelaide. Let's start off with the first game, round 3 now. Round 3, the buys are be of too much in a lot of ways, and two teams are going to miss the Easter round. I think that's a bit personally unfair because everyone wants to play Easter ball. Fortunately, too, we'll worry about that, and that'll be the last time before we get into some fun gather round. And that will be very soon, but okay, well, we're here for game number 1, round 3, between the Geelong Cats and the Adelaide Crows. Play down the original known for Kilda Park at GMHBA Stadium in Geelong. Geelong Cats and the Adelaide Crows, and they go into low scoring. The Geelong defeated a 9-14, 68, 9-6, 60. This game was absolutely anyone's to take. They were missing stars from Geelong with the Patrick Dangerfield to Jordan Dawson from the Adelaide Crows. And also we had players out already before the season. Now, I got to say right now, Adelaide much better perform. Yes, there are some talent players I want to share from both teams, which I'm going to do right now, and we'll get into the game stacks. First up is McAndrew, the ruckman from the Adelaide Crows. Absolute domination since moving to the Adelaide Crows. For another player, the new May Letton. Also domination for his first game for the season, which is a first gamer. Then we have Samberry, Bond, Butts, Hook, Cummings, Fogarty. They didn't have a big impact, but they had a big moment. I really give so much to the LA Crows with that. Coming to the Geelong Cats, a strong performance in the wet football. Adelaide also very good. I think the big game was stopping Jeremy Cameron, and it worked. Did not let him kick a goal. But it was the acting Tom Stewart, Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, and Sean Maingard all dominated for Geelong. Not just kicking goals, but winning the ball. It was not easy. Not a big crowd down in Geelong. But I'm very happy with an improvement. Then losing by 5 goals could have gone a lot worse. We'll break down the quarter very briefly and then the stacks and straight into the play of the game. So it was a 2-goal to 14 stack. Then it really moved into a 2-3 goal. Adelaide won the quarter. It was anyone's to win, only 8 points in it. Then we came to 1 goal to 2. Adelaide won again a quarter. Only 4 points at 3/4 time. 4 minus behind. Then it was 2 goals 5 to 2 goals 1. So Adelaide got more goals out of them than points. There was the 8 minus behind exactly the game of goals. Won the game for Geelong. And Aidan will explain how it all worked. We come to the game stacks for this game. And I really have to say that the disposal rate really hurt. It was, I thought, 300 plus or almost 330 is not great, but 400 is pretty good. We come to the hit-outs. Adelaide won the hit-outs and Geelong win the clearances. So basically the stoppages clearances was basically favoured Geelong by only 30-27. The next part was contested possessions and favoured Geelong. They won the ball more, was 5 turnovers, so 73-82. The intercept possession of it favoured of Geelong. Overall, 33 marks minus the LA Crows. Geelong almost scored 100 marks to 65. We also give it all very tight in tackle. So that was the improvement that Adelaide did so well. And it was very, very basically the bounce generally. Adelaide won that stat. But overall, Adelaide be proud. Geelong, well done. I'll come to the player of the game, which is Max Holmes, a player that I've seen all last year and domination. And Max Holmes included 27 disposals, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 1 any goals included. That is right, with 111 AFL fantasy included, 7 score involvements, 603 meters game, 2 clearances, and 16 centre bounce attempts. Well done to Max Holmes for the Geelong Cats. Okay. Well, we're here for game number 1, round 3, between the Geelong Cats and the Adelaide Crows. Play down the original, known for Kilda Park at GMHBA Stadium in Geelong. Geelong Cats and the Adelaide Crows, and they go into low scoring. The Geelong defeated a 9-14-68, 9-6-60. This game was absolutely anyone's to take. They were missing stars from Geelong with the Patrick Dangerfield to Jordan Dawson from the LA Crows. And also we had players out already before the season. Now, I got to say right now, Adelaide much better perform. Yes, there are some talent players I want to share from both teams, which I'm going to do right now, and we'll get into the game stacks. First up is McAndrew, the ruckman from the Adelaide Crows. Absolute domination since moving to the Adelaide Crows. For another player, the new May Letton. Also domination for his first game for the season, which is a first gamer. Then we have Samberry, Bond, Butts, Hawk, Cummings, Fogarty. They didn't have a big impact, but they had a big moment. I really give so much to the LA Crows with that. Coming to the Geelong Cats, a strong performance in the wet football. Adelaide also very good. I think the big game was stopping Jeremy Cameron, and it worked. Did not let him kick a goal. But it was the acting Tom Stewart, Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, and Sean Maingard all dominated for Geelong. Not just kicking goals, but winning the ball. It was not easy. Not a big crowd down in Geelong. But I'm very happy with an improvement. Then losing by 5 goals could have gone a lot worse. We'll break down the quarter very briefly and then the stacks and straight into the play of the game. So it was a 2-goal, 14 stack. Then it really moved into a 2-3 goal. Adelaide won the quarter. I thought it was anyone's to win, only 8 points in it. Then we came to 1 goal to 2. Adelaide won again a quarter. Only 4 points at 3/4 time. 4 minus behind. Then it was 2 goals, 5 to 2 goals, 1. So Adelaide got more goals out of them than points. But it was the 8 minus behind exactly the game of goals. Won the game for Geelong. And Aidan will explain how it all worked. We come to the game stacks for this game. And I really have to say that the disposal rate really hurt. It was, I thought, 300 plus or almost 330 is not great, but 400 is pretty good. We come to the hit-outs. Adelaide won the hit-outs and Geelong win the clearances. So basically, the stoppages clearances was basically favoured Geelong by only 30-27. The next part was contested possessions and favoured Geelong. They won the ball more, was 5 turnovers, so 73-82. The intercept possession of it favoured of Geelong. Overall, 33 marks minus the LA Crows. Geelong almost scored 100 marks to 65. We also give it all very tight in tackle. So that was the improvement that Adelaide did so well. And it was very, very, basically, the bounce, generally, Adelaide won that stat. But overall, Adelaide be proud. Geelong, well done. I'll come to the player of the game, which is Max Holmes, a player that I've seen all last year and domination. And Max Holmes included 27 disposals, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 1 any goals included. That is right, with 111 AFL fantasy included, 7 score involvements, 603 meters game, 2 clearances, and 16 centre-bounds attempts. Well done to Max Holmes for the Geelong Cats.
All right, thank you, Ben. So, yeah, this game, I think it was actually interesting coming in because the Crows made some interesting selections at the selection table. And one of the ones that really stuck out to me was the omitting of Taylor Walker listed as managed. Yeah, I don't know if it was a small injury or whatever, but he was officially listed as managed, which tells me he was available to play. The Crows chose just to not play, so basically he was omitted by old term. But come on, Adelaide, it's round 3 against the team you're going to be playing again in September. You can't rest players in round 3. This is professional football. This isn't C-grade weekend warriors. Oh, my hammy's a little bit sore, so I'm going to sit out this week. This is the AFL. It's round 3. You're going to see these guys again in September, and you've just given them position advantage because they've beat you. So if it comes down to Adelaide and Geelong fighting for a spot, especially if it's 6 and 7, Geelong beat Adelaide, so there's 4 points extra between them, and the 4 points here are going to be what the difference is. These are the 4 points you could have. But now, if you end up having to play in the play-in and Geelong gets 6th spot, you need to look back at these decisions you made on this game and realise why you're not having a bye. Because you chose to sacrifice bodies for the longer cause. Now, that, in the long term, if it works out, is brilliant. But the short term is you lost, so it's not a good idea against a team who you will see again because they're on the same level as you. Now, let's get to the actual game itself. This one was quite an interesting one. Geelong, every single time they pushed, they helped. Adelaide would push back. Adelaide could never really get ahead in the game, never could really get a foot in the game. They did finally take the lead the first time in the game early in that last quarter. But Geelong, again, come back, point, goal, then you're into stoppage time, goal back to Adelaide, point. That's the end of it. That's how it finishes. That's pretty much every score of the last quarter. Geelong end up winning here 9-14-68, Adelaide 9-6-60. Now we have a look at the stats, the team stat, disposals. 409 to 329. Now that one I'm not so worried about. That's just a difference of style. Adelaide, they do like longer kicks to separate the midfield. Geelong, it's more of a chain game. Inside 50s, this is where it gets damaging. Geelong, as I said, 9-14. This could have been over a lot earlier. 67 inside 50s to 45. That is a difference of 22 inside 50s for only a difference of 8 points. So the Crows did great defensively, but it is a worrying trend. Clearances, again, pretty even, 42-35. I'm happy with that. The one that sticks out to me is Mark, 98-65 in the rain. When you are giving up 33 more marks to the opposition, and not just light rain that you can see clearly on your TV screen, that is something else. That tells me something else. It's not just about where you are as a football club on the ladder. It tells me a lot more about where you are mentally as a football club, because there are just some things that you cannot do this and expect to win games. You are lucky Geelong kept you in the game as much as they did, because if they wanted to, they could have run over you, because you sat your best players. Some were injured, okay, but then you sat somebody else, and then this game could have been over a lot longer than it was beforehand. But this is a lesson to learn, is if you do end up having to go into the play-in, these are the 4 points you wish you had. Now, my player of the game here, I like this guy a lot. I've talked about him a lot last year. I'm going to talk about him again here. Sean Manor from Geelong. 98 fantasy, so not a lot of fantasy. 1 goal, 24 touches, 16 kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, 387 metres gained. So, you look at that and you say, that's not really a big performance. Well, you'd be right. It's not. But the thing that I like about Sean Manor, and what he did in this game as well, was that he does a lot of stuff off ball. He's the guy giving the shepherd. He's the guy giving the block. He's the guy creating space for everybody else, sacrificing his touches to the footy so that his team is in a better position to win the game. And he does this every single week. 20-something touches, maybe a goal or two, but a collection of bodies. And that's what's helping Geelong win. So, for that, Sean Manor is my player of the game.
Next game we have is Friday night football for round 3. We have Collingwood back returning an attack on GWS Giants. This is a really good fresh start, and Collingwood came home 39-87. Defeated 7-12-54 at Marble Stadium. This game was played. Well done to Collingwood, great win there with GWS Giants. Not as great, but a good effort to come to Melbourne and got defeated by 33 points. Go into how this game started is Collingwood start well. GWS try to fight back into the game and 3-1 and then 4-2. So Collingwood won the quarters and they won each quarter. But it was the stars of the max. And I'm pretty happy to say a pretty good effort. The nets, I would like to share the stats. Disposal rate was favoured to GWS Giants. Then it came to the midfield, winning hit-outs, favour of Collingwood. The clearances was pretty even, favour to GWS Giants. Centre clearances, 12 apiece. So the Giants won the ball, couldn't get on the scoreboard. Only 19 score involvements. The next possession is marking. Two best marking team in the AFL. 124 marks. Favour of GWS Giants. Inside 50s. Marks of inside 50s. A total of 15 each. And possession marks, favour to Collingwood 14-7. The next part is in the most important part is the tackling. The tackle in favour to Collingwood sits plus 45-39. The tackle inside 50s, favour of the Giants, 13-10. So you can see there's a big, and percentage is the most important part, 43-40 in favour of favour Collingwood. So well done to the winning sacks to the Giants. The players I really think stood up for the Giants. Lockie Wakefield, Hunt Oliver, we have Lockie Ash, and for Collingwood, you can't go past the Josh and Nick Dacos. You cannot go past them. And the most of all time, Tim Memory. But the player of the game, it's been playing pretty well. It's Ned Long from Collingwood, including 1 goal, 11 disposals, 4 marks, 10 tackles. Not big an AFL fancy, that is only 86 there. He also included that 4 score involvements. 110, not a lot on the meters, but maybe not a clearances, but 8 centre bounce and tenders. Well done, Ned Long from Collingwood.
All right, thank you. I want to get through this one pretty quickly. I think this game's pretty much open and shut case. Collingwood end up winning 87-54, so 39-87, 7-12-54 for GWS. Now, this is where these two teams are at. Collingwood are a team holding steady inside the top 6. I don't think that Collingwood will be in the play-in. Unless something goes drastically wrong, Collingwood should safely be inside that top 6. GWS are a team who are probably going from not even in the play-in. I don't see GWS finishing in the play-in at this point. They're already down Tom Green. They're a team known to get multiple injuries throughout the year. They're not going to get much better. Clayton Oliver, while he's a great player, hasn't come in and done a lot. So I just cannot see GWS being in the play-in this year. I think this is the end of the first era of GWS. They had a good run, they had a good shot at it. They probably deserved a few more grand finals, especially between 2017 and 2022. But they came up short again and again and again and again, and they just couldn't get over the line, and now their run is over. It's the end of the first era of GWS. Now, going into the stats, we're going to look at some key stats here. So, disposal efficiency was pretty even, but I'm not a big fan of disposal efficiency. It doesn't tell me how you're using the ball. It just tells me how many times you're connecting with a teammate. Free kicks, pretty even. Tackles, pretty even as well. What gets me here is hit out. 37-23. Now, as we know, Kieran Briggs, one of my favourite ruckmen, I've talked about him a lot before, got outdone by not just a rook, but a debutant in Oscar Steen. Now, normally I'd let it go, but this kid is something special. The old school punch the shit out of the ball out of the ruck is what he does. He's not even trying to hit the midfielders. He's trying to get the ball to his centre half forward. And it's brilliant because it's entertaining and it's something new, and we haven't seen it in so long since the days of Nick Natanui that we need this. This is not just a ruckman coming in and playing football. This is a ruckman coming in and making ruck fun again. And that is exactly what Oscar Steen has done. Now, my player of the game, Oscar Steen. Only 52 fantasy, but we know rucks don't line up well in fantasy. He got himself a goal as well, which was really good. Only 8 touches, 3 kicks, 5 handballs, 2 marks, one clearance. So 1 clearance for the ruckman's a good move. 20 hit-outs. Out-ruck Kieran Briggs. Out-ruck Darcy Cameron. Just by punching the ball as far forward as he could at any given opportunity. It is not just a great sight to see. It is a young man coming in and being like, I'm not worried about how the game is played these days. I am going to play ruck the old school way. And for that reason, not just the stats, but the pure entertainment value, he's my player of the game. Yeah, this really wasn't interesting. Yeah, St Kilda really should have been in a much better position after quarter time here. 1-7 to 5 points. You know, that's game on again. That's keeping the game at bay, giving Brisbane a sniff into the opportunities here. Second quarter opens up a bit, 5-9, 4-7 at half time. Now, St Kilda's still in the lead, but Chris Fagan pulls off a masterstroke here. He removes the tag on the Sire Wanganeen Malera. Second half, Brisbane go on to kick 13 goals, 6. And the game around, they win by 33 points, 80 to 113. So teams have beaten St Kilda with the tag. Now teams are going to beat St Kilda without the tag. So it's now a pick your poison. And this is where it gets dangerous if you're St Kilda. You can't trust the other team to tag Nasiah Wanganeen Malera, because if they do tag Nasiah Wanganeen Malera, they've got a chance of winning. But if they don't tag Nasiah Wanganeen Malera, they might also win the game against you. So you've really given the ball to the opposition. So Ross Lyon, you need to go to your little laboratory and come up with some genius plan, because one way you lose, the other way you also lose. St Kilda, they've been disappointing for me. You know, they re-signed Nasiah, they bring in Tom Ducane, they bring in Liam Ryan, and they just don't prove that they're gonna improve. This is the same St Kilda. 1 step forward, 5 steps back. It's laughable, because this team was so hyped up in the preseason. Everyone thought St Kilda was going to do something, and they did something. They just kept on being St Kilda. As for Brisbane, they're the reigning premiers, reigning defending back-to-back premiers for a reason. Chris Fagan is a genius for a reason. That's why I'm not even going to give a player of the game. That's why Chris Fagan is my player of the game, and he's not even a player. Because when you come up with a tactical move that seems so out of the box, because both teams the first 3 times St Kilda played, every single team tagged Nasiah Wanganeen Malera, and you go, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And then you turn the game around and you win by 33 points. You are the player of the game by letting your whole team do what they do best, which is run and carry football. Brisbane, it's just chain handball, dump kick. Here we go to centre half forward, pick up, chain handball, kick to the full forward, mark and goal. That's what Brisbane have done for the last 3 years, and by breaking the tag, they've actually won the game. So this is going to be seeming really odd, but yes, Chris Fagan is my player of the game.
We come to Saturday afternoon football here on the AFL Mix Show with Aidan and your host BJ. We got St Kilda and Brisbane Lions. Brisbane on back off the bye. This is a really important one, but it is Brisbane taking the win. I will tell you right now is well done for Brisbane winning their very first premiership points for the 2026 AFL season. St Kilda started well. They came out of the blocks and really poor kicking at the very moment. 1 goal 7 to 5 minus. And then it will kick 4 goals each. So total of 4.2 apiece. Then it came to 2 goals 3 to 6 goals 1. That's where it changes to 2 goals 2 to to 7 goals free. Brisbane won the game and they kicked 13-4, as Aidan may mention, to 6 goals 5. So a big second half remarkable victory. We're going to the team stats, breaking it down once again. Brisbane are a domination team and really winning the footy. Inside 50, St Kilda dominating that. 56-52. Free kicks, well, I'm not a big fan of free kicks. I won't worry about that. But the headouts, 20 plus favour St Kilda. But Brisbane won 18 plus in 14. So in total clearances, 2 plus in central clearances, stoppages, 12 plus. So they, even though they lost in the headout, they actually won the footy. The next stat I like to share and with contested possessions and uncontested possessions and well, they actually got turnovers 10 plus as well. So I think that overall, Brisbane knew that St Kilda were going to be a different team. The players that stood out that I think definitely deserve a reminder. It's Sinclair. Wingler, Romana, Mimilla dominated, and I'm going to give it to Blenders. All dominated for St Kilda. Brisbane, Levi Ashcroft, definitely on the mind of Coleman from Brisbane, and the man I'm going to be showing in the moment is Will Ashcroft. Domination. The player of the game is Will Ashcroft. Dominated with 31 disposals, 5 marks, 7 tackles, 128 for fantasy. He absolutely included 3 score involvement, 254 A4 meters game, 22 centre bounce attenders, and 10 clearances. Well done to Will Ashcroft from Brisbane Lions.
On that game, going back to that game, Jack Steele actually played a very good game against St Kilda playing for Melbourne. But I'll let you continue here. Here's what happened in Perth.
Fremantle and Richmond, take it away, Aidan.
Thank you very much. Fremantle and Richmond from Optus Stadium and the possible chance of a cyclone going through West Australia. What an interesting day to play football. Fremantle, 13-25. 103. Plays Richmond 6-7-43. Fremantle won by 60 points. 25 of those came in ones. And I can tell you other things you can do with ones. Fremantle really ran away with this game in the second half. This was pretty even at half time. Fremantle were only up by a couple of points at half time. But the second half absolutely blew Richmond out of the water by scoring lots and lots and lots of ones. Oh, and you wonder why I left this team 3 years ago. Anyway, no, Fremantle. This is going to be a problem for Fremantle. I've said it for the last 3 years. They win games, but they score in ones. If they started kicking goals, if they reversed that scoreline, they would have absolutely blown Richmond out of the water. 25-13 means Fremantle's kicked over 190 points. 25-13, from just doing some quick maths, is 203 points. They have left 100 points on the table, and that's also going to hurt their percentage, because the teams around them are going to play Richmond and going to beat them a lot cleaner, a lot better, and a lot better accuracy. For Fremantle, there was one bright spark, and that is my player of the game in Josh Tracy, a player who I've been a real fan of these last couple of years as well. Someone who's really put in the work, become the number 2 forward at Fremantle, possibly the number 1 forward when Luke Jackson goes to the right. Josh Tracy kicked 4 goals on the day, so that's pretty good in the weather for 120 AFL fantasy for Josh Tracy. 16 touches, 14 kicks, 2 handballs, 12 marks, and 2 tackles for Josh Tracy. Fremantle, please stop scoring in ones. Richmond, great effort against a team who literally only wanted to score in ones. So, Richmond are going to be back. This was just a bad week for Richmond, or a bad half for Richmond. They're going to be back, and I think Richmond is still dangerous. I think they're still going to do something, and you still need to watch them. This was just a better second half from Fremantle.
We now go to the second Saturday football for Super Football. We are in Western Australia, Perth, at Optus Stadium. This game was known for cyclones, and maybe Aidan may mention behinds. 13-25 on 103 should be 203 if that gets straighter, or even at least 150 points. To Richmond 6 goals, 7 behinds, 43. Winners 60 points for Fremantle. The start of this quarter, 1-5-3 behinds. 4-4, 5-9, 39, 5-3 straight. So Richmond winning the game. They were dominating. But it was 1 goal, 9. 2, 1 points. Last quarter, 3 goals, 5, 1 goal, 3. The whole half, the game was scored 8 goals, 14 2, 2 goals, 4. Anyone could have won that game, but it was all Fremantle in the second half. The 10 sacks I'm going to give you was disposals. Fremantle won every moment from that. Free kicks are pretty even there. The headouts are domination from total clearances, centre bounce attenders, and stoppages. Contested possession, they gave it all Richmond, but they really made it close in turnovers. Not heavy, defeated. And it was the inside 50 marks. The tackles, they gave it all. 95, 64. 64 is a pretty good effort. And most important, my goodness, I got a little bit in control. Marking was 64, and the most important the tackles 53. So it's a good effort in this weather. The 61, very even in this condition of football. The players stood out, making this nice and sharp. John Bolton, String, and Jordan Clark. We have Trencho, Ross, and Short from Richmond. The player game for this one is Jordan Clark from Fremantle. 27 disposals, 4 marks, 4 tackles, 98 AFL intensity. We are absolutely included a dominant 3 score involvement, 344 metres game. That one's clearances is a big moment for the player with that one percentage. Well done, Jordan Clark. Well done on your game performance and your game player of the game. Saturday night football. Here we are. We turn back to Marble Stadium between the Gold Essendon Bombers and the North Melbourne Rouge. Well done to North Melbourne. That was a solid effort and victory, holding on a beauty, with defeating the Essendon Bombers 9-15-69 to 12-9-81. First up, I'm going to say to Essendon, that was a good fight back and an effort. But a win needs to be a win for your supporters, Essendon. Heads up, play well next week. We'll speak to you in just a little moment. North Melbourne, great start to the season. This is what a big change for North Melbourne they've done in the off-season. Since round 1, played at Marble, defeated Port Adelaide. Big winners there. Then goes to round 2. Not an easy trip because North Melbourne, my goodness, West Coast have shown shows in big ways. They got challenged against Gold Coast. We'll speak West Coast soon. But I tell you right now, that was not an easy road trip. Then come back to Marble, not MCG, no else, but to Marble Stadium. And they took on the Dons of Essendon Bombers and took the win by 12 points. Coming into the stats and all of that, we'll share that in just a moment because a little bit of stat difficulties with the app. I do apologise. Here we go. We're back on the air. So I'll just give you a short moment of the team sacks. So pretty good with the disposal rates with Essendon and North Melbourne. You know, overall, the hit-outs, very low scoring for hit-outs. Not greatest hit out. 13. But I think I'm doing this by quarter. I think that makes a big difference. No, that's overall. So the free kicks were even. That's what I like to see. Pretty even in the clearances. So both teams winning the footy, which we like to see in a game of football. Marking the ball. This is the interesting mark. North Melbourne. 138, 85 marks. North Melbourne very good at marking. Inside 50s, contested possession marks, you name it. Tackling, 54 to 39 favour Essendon. That's a good. And then percentage is pretty 13 plus in favour of North Melbourne. So North Melbourne are coming to face that they got the team. Now it's time to play full quarters to fully and put teams to bed in a way that they can go one step into the next part of the ladder. Back to Essendon. Look, we're looking over the quarter by quarter, and I'll do that right now on my screen on the AFL app. I think it was a pretty even start. Then it went shaky. After really that half-time point, they were in that game. They were only 10 points, 48 to 32, 47-44. Margin was 12 points. Then it really put 5 goals to 1. That was over. That was it. Then it changed the game. Better accuracy, 4 goals 3 to 3 minus. So overall, Essendon kept goals each quarter. Not North Melbourne 3 quarters, but they won it at the end of the third quarter, leading 36 points. With Essendon, that was a good fight back, only 2 goal loss. That was going to come. North Melbourne were never going to give up. And that's a good sign you want to see it in your team. The players stood up and really stood up. Kilda dominated. Luke Parker and Luke Davis-Junior for Essendon. Roberts, Caldwell, and of course McGrath. There's more players I would like to share, but then they dominated really well. The player of the game is Luke Parker. 135 AFL fans in. I totally agree with you, Aidan, as well. But that 13 marks, 3 tackles, and 33 disposals, it's all 3-3-3. If you actually notice, 3-3-3. 33, 13, 3. So think of that, triple-double of threes. 377 metres game and 3 centre bounce attendance. Well done, North Melbourne, on the win, and well done to Luke Parker, as I mentioned, and North Melbourne.
Unfortunately, I watched the whole thing, and I would much rather be unwell and not watch. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. This game, well, it's exactly what you'd expect from two teams who have recently lived down the bottom of the ladder. Both of these teams, the score aside, this game was quite slow. This game was full of mistakes, and North Melbourne somehow came out on the better end of it. Now, I'm going to go through the game first, and then I'm going to get to what happened with Tristan Xerri. So, North Melbourne, were, as Ben said, 6 goals up at three-quarter time. Essendon do make a charge. They come up 2 goals short. North Melbourne win the game 12-9, 81 to 9-15, 69. So, Essendon, again, much like that other team who likes scoring ones, if Essendon had kicked a few more goals, this game would have been completely different because they had the more scoring output. Now, you've seen it talked about before, but I didn't think we'd see it in the literal sense. This game, for Andy McGrath, was a bloodbath because Tristan Xerri got knocked down, got a blood nose, and decided to wipe his blood on the face of an opposition player. That is uncalled for. He got 3 weeks, which is exactly what he deserved, because that is not even a football act. That is, I don't know what that is. But the AFL's, 3 weeks is nice, but you just don't do that. Come on, man. This is the AFL. Like I said about the Crows, it's the AFL. Like, we're putting this on for kids. Now some kid's going to wake up in the morning and go play Auskick, get tackled hard and go, you know what, I'm Tristan Xerri, and, do what Tristan Xerri did. This is ridiculous. 3 weeks is not even enough. 3 weeks and maybe some counselling to explain why this is not a good idea. We've lived through COVID. We know what happens when you spread bodily products to other people. If you were alive in 2020, you know what that means. It was everywhere. On the news, on the billboards at the bus station. This is coming in a post-COVID world where we know what that does and the dangers of it. So this is not just wrong on an AFL level. This is wrong on a medical level as well. Now, my player of the game, Ben, like you said, Luke Parker. Absolutely. Best game I've seen him play in a long time. We did have 3 triple-doubles, though. We had Luke Parker with a triple-double. We had Harry Sheezel with a triple-double. We had Luke Davies-Uniacke with a triple-double. So 3 players got 10+ in kicks, handballs, and marks in the same game for the same team. They only won by 12 points. But they dominated possession, those 3 for North Melbourne, and that's what got them over the line. Thank you. Yeah, this was a great day in Adelaide. It was a great Sunday in Adelaide, and it only got better by watching Port Adelaide lose to West Coast. I'll tell you what, Sunday morning I was at the gym. I get home, put on Fox Footy, as you do. Sunday, footy's on, here we go. Then I'm looking at the team, I'm like, West Coast is 5 goals down. West Coast is 5 goals down against Port Adelaide. Probably late in the first quarter, early in the second quarter. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, hey, you know what? West Coast is going to win this game. I don't know why I said it, but I said it as well 2 weeks ago against North Melbourne. Same situation. End of the first quarter, 5 goals down. Hey, West Coast is going to win this game. Both times I have said that they are going to win this game from 5 goals down and looking utterly out of touch in the first quarter. I've been proven right. I am a genius. But it's not just that they won the game. It's that Port Adelaide went into a complete melt. The score here, Port Adelaide, 8-6 at half time. To go from 35 to 13 at quarter time to 54 to 46 at half time. Now, you've just let West Coast right back in the game here. Second half, West Coast is in the lead by 3/4 time, and they hold on to win at the end. Now, what I saw was interesting is after the Thursday night game, they changed the rules. So now the ARG can review last touch. So in the last minutes of this game, there was a last touch out of bounds call, and the umpires weren't sure who to give it to. The ARC reviewed it, and this is not just about this game, this is about football in general. The ARC reviewed it, and they called it a throw-in, and West Coast go on to win the game. And I think it was meant to be West Coast ball anyway, so they go on to win the game anyway. But for Port Adelaide, I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear the umpires gypped us. I don't want to hear we were down our captain. You lost to West Coast, and I think West Coast this year is very good. But clearly, Port Adelaide this year is not very good at all. In fact, Port Adelaide might be joining Essendon in the cellar. That's how far Port Adelaide have fallen in 6 months. Now, for my player of the game, I'm going to give it to Harley. Harley Reid, who had, and I'll bring my phone over because I need it. Harley Reid, 2 goals, 21 touches, 12 kicks, 9 handballs, 3 marks, and 2 tackles.
Next game, here on round 3 reviews. We got one upset, not just the upset, but the biggest road victory for the round. Port Adelaide hosts West Coast. West Coast do play well at the Adelaide Oval. Day, night, twilight, whenever. They will test Port Adelaide. West Coast look the better team, really on paper. But Port Adelaide should put this team to sleep. No, Port Adelaide had ways. They do not have their captain. They've had replacement captains turning up. They're not working. The leadership at Port Adelaide, they need to live not just for the fans, but for the team. And this is a really painful thing. Port Adelaide started well. And I'm going to give West Coast in a moment. But I'm going to start with Port Adelaide. This is the thing with you start well. You're up by 4 goals. 28-point lead. Then you make it 3 goals to 5. This changed. 3 goals to 4, then 2 goals apart. So, besides quarter time, West Coast won every quarter. They were down in the first half. It was all Port Adelaide in the first. Second half was all West Coast. It happens. It does happen. It's football. But I'm surely that they're going to go to the MCG next week and really put on a start. And you can't finish. You can't finish. You can't win it. That's football. But you got to face your fears. You got this, Port Adelaide. But you know if you can do it, you'll be fine. West Coast, well done. This is the game I want to see a win. Now, unusual. Port Adelaide were favourites to win. But you had planned at half-time, they're down to 8 points and took on a big win. You lose last week against West Coast and bounce back against a team that is unsure at the moment. This is a team like West Coast is not going to finish in the bottom half. They will rise up, get good wins, and really finish the season on the first half of the season strong. This is a really big thing. With 10 stacks, you put disposal. 340 to 303. Pretty good effort. You got the free kicks pretty good, 22-17, so I'm not overly that worried. The headouts are pretty even. 45 Port Adelaide to 40, so that's a pretty good effort. West Coast win the total clearances, and it was sent to clearances to Port Adelaide by 1. Stoppages, West Coast favour, and marking, Port Adelaide won the marks in the heat. They knew the conditions better. Inside 50 marks, 16 to 13. So I'm not saying, and look, the tags was pretty even, but very, very low scoring in that. Tag inside 50s, 8 plus, 10 to 2, and bounce and 1% is pretty even. So heads up, Put Adelaide all the best. West Coast, enjoy the win, all the best. Next week, challenge against West Sydney Swans. They'll be coming off the bye. They'll be coming to off the stadium to take this challenge. And boy, play well. Play West Coast football. Let's get to the players I think perform really well in my opinion. So we'll start with Port Adelaide. Zach Butters dominated with Burgundy and Drew and Then with West Coast Eagles, Jake Waterman. We have Tim Kelly and Harley Reid. Player of the game. A bad night at the Adelaide Oval. It's Jake Waterman with 13 disposals. That's 4 marks. Didn't hit a tackle, but 76 AFL fans today. That's a pretty good effort. All goes with kicking 4.5 goals, 4 from 4. Hill scores in 10 score involvements and as well 332 AFL fantasy into meters game. 332 meters game. Well done, West Coast. And Jay Waterman from West Coast. Final game here on the Mixed AFL Footy Show with Aidan and your host BJ. Hope you enjoy it. Make sure you give this a like and hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for listening on today's show. So, what can I say about this game? Has Carlton going to bounce back from an embarrassment loss against North Melbourne? MCG, Carlton pretty good. They love Marble more. But I took on a team that 2-1. I tipped Melbourne because I think they had a better mind. What I mean mind is I think they had more confidence. After their loss, they learned from their loss. Carlton heads up. Start the season on a difficult note, knowing Melbourne were going to come back. And at half-time, exactly what did. They trust their game plan. Stephen King is on top of his Melbourne Demons. The former Cats coach player is coming to a team that got a new team, his own football style. And then he's found a way to done it. Melbourne Demons, well done on the win. 15-10-100 defeated 11-11-77 to Carlton. Where is Carlton at the moment? Unsure. They're going to have to find something at Marble, and I feel that they will have a feeling they'll do well. They did start well against Melbourne and then went down. So how much is important for Carlton to bounce back? It's pressure around the ball, and I'll share those 10 stats right now. And that's exactly what it is. Disposal is 7+ in favour of Melbourne. So that's a pretty good start there. Hit-outs. That's the big thing with Carlton. They need to find a way to really hit those hit-outs. North Melbourne totally dominated. Clearances, pretty even, all over the ground. That's a pretty good even. That's a good balance. Two sides have the balanced players. Marking, very even. Best two high teams can mark the ball really well as well. And especially in the MCG, that's almost 200 marks between two teams. 180 plus between two teams. Or almost 190. But anyway, the next part is tackling. Melbourne came out pressuring, and they did it perfectly. Inside 50 tackles were pretty dangerous. And 1% is Carlton. They knew they did dominated, and they did really, really well. The players stood up. We start with the mighty Carlton Football Club. The player that's really stood up is Stan Walsh. No, he dominated really well. We have Holland from Carlton, and I'm going to give it to a domination he's maybe done pretty well. It's Patrick Cripps. Now it's Melbourne Demons. We have Gawn, Steele, and Pickett. Dominated not dispensity, not just hitting the ball, but questioning the ball. Now my player of the game for the final time for round 3, and then we'll share our round 4 Easter football. Stay tuned for that. Max Gawn, 141 AFL fantasy with 58 hit-outs, 23 disposals, 4 marks, 3 tackles, and including 5 score involvements, 362 metres gained, 6 clearances, 24 bounce attenders. Well done. Well done to Max Gawn and the Melbourne Football Club with a massive, massive win. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into round for Easter football reviews. Okay, it's time to get into round 4 reviews with the hop. It's Easter round with your host BJ and our awesome Aidan, as always. Welcome to come back, and thank you so much for your time, Aidan, as well. We're now coming to round 4, and thank you, and hopefully you'll also enjoy Aidan's previews. Here we do have the big one. It's one and only the Easter Thursday game, and it's going to be a good game. There has been some big outs, it's going to be a I think it's going to be, yes, they don't have their key defenders for both the Brisbane and, well, Darcy Moore for Brisbane and Collingwood. So we have such as their captain from Brisbane and their captain Collingwood. So how can both teams play well? It's at Gada. Brisbane has lost and Collingwood's done some heavy defeats on Thursday night footy, but I'm backing up Brisbane with the win. Next we have, and what a game this is going to be, Good Friday football. Now, they don't have their best ruckman. He's out, and with very much reasons, he's benching. With Carlton, they have to make some massive changes into their side. And how much Carlton? I think Carlton will bounce back, but I think North Melbourne, yes, they don't have the best ruckman, but North Melbourne have changed, and they have not. I think Carlton should get the job done, but I'm backing North Melbourne with this. Nice and short. Moving on. Friday night football and second good Friday football good day. Anyway, we got the Adelaide Crows up against Fremantle, and it's going to be a really good, high-scoring, good, perfect night for football. And I'm going to this game. I'm backing the Crows. I think it's going to be a much better lineup with hopefully some big ins coming back into the side. It'll be a type 1 Adelaide for me. Next one is for Saturday football, and the first for the afternoon, and it's at 3:45, the late start due to the long weekend. I'm backing up Port Adelaide. They may not have everything. I think Richmond have everything to win for. I think they can give it a crack. A hard, whole crack. But they do have some experience and a loose experience and some young kids on the ball. But I think it's going to be a cracking game. Hopefully some great experience come back in the side. And I'll back it up the mighty. I am backing the Port Adelaide to win this game. Next game we have is however game we got for Saturday night Easter football in the West at Optus Stadium. West Coast Eagles, and they're hosting the Sydney Swans. Look, great stuff for West Coast, so just holding on for victory. And I did it perfectly on a nice day in Adelaide against Port Adelaide. Then come back home, Sydney off the bye. I really have the bounce and respect for Sydney with this win. It'll be a good game, and hopefully it'll be a good entertainment. Melbourne versus Gold Coast for Easter Sunday on a double header. And I'm backing up Gold Coast with this game. It's going to be a really, really good game. There's not saying there's maybe Christian Petrarch versus former club. It's going to be an interesting battle, but look, for everything what we're saying, yeah, he's injured at the moment. Unfortunately, he will not rule against his former club. But I think it's going to be a really good game. Melbourne are in really interesting form with Stephen King. But on the G, I think Gold Coast are really looking strong. Matt Malback, hopefully he will expect to return for this game and some other great talent. But Gold Coast will win in a nice beauty. And the Sunday night football, the Western Bulldogs versus Essendon Bombers, a fortunate 12-point defeat. A good hard last quarter does not complete the hold on. Dogs are big winners by 6 points just over the line. But the Dogs are, for me, they should take care. A good win. But hopefully Essendon will stay in the contest for 4 quarters. And the final game, it is the Easter traditional blockbuster at the MCG. Hopefully it'll be a king game of football and it'll be all not one way. Geelong, for me, they took well against the Crows by 8 points. And Geelong, for me, there you go. Aidan, over to you with your patrician and thank you, and hopefully you have a lovely.
All right, thank you. Let's go through these one by one. Thursday night football, Brisbane Collingwood. This is, of course, going to be a very, very close game. I'm going to take Brisbane here by 5 points, but I would not be surprised if it goes Collingwood. Good Friday football, North Melbourne and the Blues. I'm actually going to take the Blues here because North Melbourne don't have a ruckman. So Carlton there for me. The Good Friday evening football at Adelaide Oval, the Crows and Fremantle. Now Adelaide have only passed one test so far. They've had hard opponent after hard opponent after hard opponent. This is another hard opponent. It would be worth running the risk and taking Fremantle here. I think that Fremantle, as much as it pains me to say it, could go into Adelaide and beat the Crows here. Saturday, Richmond and Port Adelaide. MCG. Tight game, close game. I think that Richmond are a very good chance here. If you want early in the season, if you want to play safe, take the Power. If you want to take some scalps early so you can play safe in the back end, take the Tigers. It's up to you, but I might actually take the Tigers here. West Coast and Sydney. Now, this one should be pretty easy. West Coast have played a really, really good couple of games the last 2 weeks. Been really impressed with them. Really, not just happy for them, but just really genuinely surprised by them. I think the run ends. They're playing the Swans. I think they lose to Sydney. Sunday, Melbourne and Gold Coast. Okay, the tracker possibly available, possibly not. I still take Gold Coast here. Sunday night football. The Doggies against Essendon. If the Doggies do not win this game, I will do something ludicrous and ridiculous that I have not found out what it is yet. So the Doggies by a country mile and probably a whole state. And then Easter Monday, Hawthorn and Geelong. This is another game where it's a 50-50 game. I think I like the Cats here. I think coming off the win against Adelaide, I think tough opponents versus a team off the bye. I think having just had the medal the week before, I think that gives Cats the edge. So Geelong it is for me there. And thank Kilda GWS on the bye. Enjoy your week off. We'll see you next week and have a good Easter. Okay, I think Ben, just to finish off with your Looney Tunes that we were going on about earlier about Easter football, I think it's time we say that's all, folks.
And that is it, folks. Peace out.